our reality. We can use it as a tool to create that. Fannie Lou Hamer, a fighter. Now, why would you say Fannie Lou Hamer? There was a young lady I met. She's sitting in the 4th row, and she brought her daughter. And so her daughter is sitting there almost next to her. And I did not see her, but I saw all the sisters. So I spoke to the sisters. But I want you, young lady, to know Fannie Lou Hamer, because she was a fighter. So as we move into this, I just want each person to come up. There's a speaker, Google, John, you can say Lattimore because he's there, but just share a name of an ancestor who inspires you. So that leaves it to you. Steph, why should the community embrace technology and AI in specific?
Oh, good question. I think it's because not only is it the future, but it's right now. We've been using AI for years on different social media channels. And so there's no reason for us to kind of get into it and use it in our daily lives, whether it's ChatGPT and helping you craft an email professionally within your business to help, make your business practices more efficient. And so you just don't want to be behind the curve. I think that's the important thing.
So for me, that's probably you'll hear about Google. And I say test and learn on everybody's platform. Like don't say, oh, I only know chat. When you leave here, you should know Google's got the same product. Use who's gonna support you. OpenAI isn't here today. They're not training today. And I'm saying it, not that I wouldn't do something with them, but I know the folks at Google. They sent down a representative, and I want to make sure that you're using. There was another beautiful sister I met, and she's trying to figure out, how do you lean into technology? How do you lean in? Because you manage me and a lot of others. How can you invite them to lean into this technology?
I mean, we use technology every day. So I think that it sounds more intimidating and complicated than what it really is. It's really just about kind of getting into it. And leaning into technology is just not one lane. Like, I run ads, that's my piece of technology, and I use all the tools that make that work. But you can use technology in any way, whether it's being a creative and doing videos or writing copy or creating different businesses or different designs in life every day. So I don't think that leaning into technology is just one lane. It's really just getting into it. And it depends on what you want to do with it.
My favorite tool is actually a Google product. Anybody heard of YouTube?
What is it called?
I would say anybody that's in this room, before you do anything, after you leave here, go to YouTube University. Before you pay for some AI, go to YouTube University. Write down everything and every option. You will hear how to win. Right now, I want us to say 2 words: future-proof. I didn't hear that. Future-proof.
Future-proof.
When you leave here, you should be working to future-proof yourself. You have to be working to future-proof yourself. What do you do to future-proof yourself?
For me, I'm trying to stay constantly ahead of the game because I work with clients, and so I can't come to them months after changes have gone in the algorithm talking about it, right? Like, I need to be ahead of that. I need to talk about it. So for me, future-proofing is reading the articles that are coming out, doing my own internal testing. So I'm constantly looking at new features that are coming out and conducting my own tests so that when I talk about it, I can come with data backing that up. So that's the way that I do it. I just try to read as much as possible because I think that we don't want to be lazy about it. You know, it takes time. So even when you're talking about YouTube, like it's really taking the time and carving that out to really learn and internalize and then do your own research and do your own testing with that. So that's the way that I do it. I try to just kind of read as much as I can and then take that and then do my own testing. Because just because it says something doesn't mean that that's everything it is. But for me, it's like I always want to be the thought leader. I always want to come from an expert or be an expert in my space.
Anybody get anything out of that? I want to make sure, because she said it so fast and nonchalantly, and then she ended with data. Every client you have is going to ask you for a data point. So if you can't talk or share data, they completely are not even considering what you're talking about.
For sure.
Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think and even if it's like less consideration, is more so before they even ask for the data, if you have it and it's ready and I can speak to it, then I look like a shining star at all times, right? It's like, oh, she thought about questions that we were going to ask or questions that we didn't think about asking. So, you know, I'm just a numbers person. So you can't disprove the numbers, which is why I love numbers, because it's just so objective. But we can speak to it. We can talk about trends. We can talk about what I've seen. And then we can talk about what these numbers mean. Like, okay, next steps include X, Y, and Z because of the data, of what the data shows.
You used another word, and I think it's very important as we think about limited resources, testing and learning. How important is it to test and learn?
It's extremely important. Like, it literally takes it back to the scientific method in school, right? You have your variable, you have your control, and you're constantly proving yourself out. And testing is not a one-time thing, right? Like, you're always going to be testing something, whether it's, again, I'm in ads, and so it could be testing different videos, testing different copy, different audiences. I am always testing, because what worked last year or even what was a winner last month is not what's going on currently. And so you're testing to constantly prove yourself and improve whatever performance that you're trying to do.
You have literally, and if you would share, won awards for your software, won awards for your thinking as it relates to bringing a software product to market. Can you share the journey that you've gone and even why the audience should be thinking of themselves as using AI and creating software?
Yeah, so, you know, I have been running ads for so long, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and startup companies, and I got into teaching. So you don't have to hire me, I can teach you how to do it, right? And so that teaching aspect kind of led me to get more into the technology, thanks to you, because you really gave me the idea. But so crafting and kind of coming up with a platform that allows people to learn how to run ads on their own, and then starting to keep up with a certain trend. So even when I started the idea of, okay, let me build this so that people can come and I can teach and scale, because for the most part, I can teach, you know, a class of 15, 20 for them to really internalize it. But now we can take this and do it in scale. But even as I'm developing it over time, and the original idea years later has to evolve. And so now we're incorporating AI and machine learning, and how can we use data to make it cooler than what it would have been last year. And so it's really like, I'm not even done developing, but I have to incorporate what's going on today in order for it to be the next thing and not fall behind trying to worry about an idea that I had 2 or 3 years later. So that's the way that I am getting into software and technology.
You said the name of it?
So the name of the platform is Semi, which is a play on simulator. And ultimately, it is designed to teach people how to run ads and then allow you to practice without risking real money. I was running into a lot of people that were trying to nickel and dime the system, spend $3 a day, $5 a day, and you're just not going to get anything. So my thoughts were, well, if they had somewhere to practice, similar to day trading, right? Traders can go and they can practice their trade strategies without risking their real money. Then it'll allow people to get more comfortable so that they can grow their businesses or whatever their objectives are. And from that, it's just evolved because now I have access to so much data from all the campaigns that I've run in the last 13 years that I have some really bright students that are specializing in machine learning and computer science that are taking all of that data and now can help people make decisions about budgeting and what channels to be on, things like that. And so again, it's just evolved. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'm proud of her. And she took the initiative. She was sharing the idea, and I knew that that was a product. And she's won several grants, which you didn't mention. But whenever you're on stage, brag about your success. Claim your victories. You don't have that many, claim every single one. She won Black Enterprises Award. She won several awards, and I'm proud that you brought it to me. It wasn't my idea. I was sitting in front of a young sister, and she was describing her software, and I'm like, that's a product. It wasn't for me to steal her idea. It wasn't for me to run off and go into a corner, but it was for me to encourage her and encourage all of us to know that greatness is in us.
And I remember when you first told me, because I had run a program one summer, I think it was the summer of 2020, where it was for Black-owned businesses for 3 months, I would essentially teach them how to run ads for free. You just needed to come, I'll teach you everything you need to know. And I was talking to you about how that program went and how I wanted to do it again, but I wanted to change. And you gave me the idea for the platform. You're like, well, that seems like it's a product. And I remember getting a slight attitude. And I was like, why are you putting something else on my plate? No, I want to do the program again. And then I went home and I sat on it and I was like, no, he's right. And so I remember putting the idea together, putting it in a pitch deck. Somebody sent me at the last minute an opportunity for a pitch competition. I put it together. I think I was on vacation, like in Jamaica, and I put a pitch deck together and came back to Atlanta, entered, and won $25,000 off the idea. And I said, okay, I guess Munson's right.
I wasn't right. God's right. I just knew. You know, the one thing is Stephanie, I didn't do a great job of. She's a super mom. She's a graduate of Georgia Tech. She has all the qualifications. Most of us have the qualifications. It's access to capital and the sponsorship to move us forward. So I only saw somebody who was prepared to continue to go to the next level. So I think we're at 11 o'clock. What time is it? Oh, well, then you get to talk a little more because my 11 o'clock. When you think about AI, what are the practical ideas? Because there was a young lady in the audience and she was saying, how can she best move into the design space using time? What would you suggest to her? Because she's in the audience, she's on the second row, and I'm really glad that she came to solve a business problem. And that's what I want us to do. Be here, ask the individuals, because this is rolling out. This is where you actually get access to the individual. They don't run off. They don't go in the green room. So please, please, please ask your questions. What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think we're still so early into understanding the capabilities of the AI platforms out there. I would be heavy in, and I am in heavy research as it pertains to how powerful it is. Because I think what we see right now is just kind of the corner of what it can really do. But I actually have a conversation scheduled with my development team to talk through how can we incorporate AI to make it cool, something that we can incorporate it by the end of the semester, because they're both graduate students. And we're just diving in and going to have a whiteboard session and throw all the ideas out there. So I think that we're still so early that there's just so much opportunity to really get into it. And there's not a wrong answer because it can really do anything. I went to it was like a startup showcase last year, and while this student was talking about his business, he was typing in his product, right? And by the time he was done talking, which was maybe 2.5 minutes, he had told his product what to do and it had built a website in 2.5 minutes. And I'm just looking at it like, I'm listening to you talk and I'm watching you just kind of type a few things. And he told, and he's just incorporating the AI technologies that are already out there. So it's really just about, what do you want it to do? What is your business? And I'm sure there's a way to kind of connect it. But again, it's going to take like, okay, what does ChatGPT do? What does this other product do? Like, how are they incorporating it already? And kind of diving in. And there's no shortcuts either. Like, it's hours and hours of research, lots of testing, lots of conversations. There are a lot of events that are going on in the city, especially at Georgia Tech. I see it all the time, where they're having these conversations. People are really sharing their ideas that can kind of spark some of this. And that's essentially what happened to me. I realized that I needed to incorporate it into Sydney before it was too late.
Never be late. And that's why Ronald's having this event, because I want my community to lean in. Mm-hmm. This fear mongering, you got to leave that alone. Doubt, got to remove it. You literally have to lean in. But she said a lot of things. Anybody hear the word whiteboard? How many of you have had a whiteboard session this week?
Oh.
So we got about 4. Almost every week, you should have a whiteboard session. Those ideas have to be popping up on, then you leave them there. You don't erase them all. So as you were talking, I was hoping that everybody was saying, this is one more thing for me to go home and do. Have a whiteboard session.
Yeah. And
then the last thing, the takeaway is research. If you're not constantly in research mode, you're going to overpay. Yeah. Somebody's going to charge you for a lie. Worst thing in the world is to be charged for a lie. Mm-hmm. Somebody tell you they can do something. The one thing I want that you said that was so important was the capacity of AI. I want to make sure we say it so that everybody leaves here. Say keystrokes.
Keystrokes.
Grows my profit margin.
Grows my profit margin.
Gotta say it like you believe it. The one thing that the guy was saying, keystrokes in AI is everything. How you prompt it, how you connect it, is gonna grow your revenue and grow your profits. So when she was talking and giving you the example, many of the funders, and John, hopefully, John, you'll talk about how to approach funders in what you do. But literally, she was telling you a capacity, and I just want to say this, Stephanie, you did a great job, but I don't want them to miss it. Share how he was telling the software to create the product and creating software. Can you give them an idea that AI really isn't about a word processing? Because we're so into this, it'll put a post up for me. That's probably something it could have done 50 years ago. You just didn't have access to it.
Yes, I think the easiest is that I was able to immediately get in. It's like, let me find a better way to write this email. I know my tone is off here. So ChatGPT has gotten me together in ways like that. But to your point, I think it opened my eyes to the capabilities of it, watching him incorporate what he had built and then helping other people do it. So he literally was just writing sentences, build a one-page website that includes a contact us form and features of blah, blah, blah. Like, he was just writing it down in sentences. And the website was populating for every sentence that he was writing down. So as he said, include a contact us button that takes name and email. And then the buttons popped up for that. And it was just so cool because I'm like, wow, like, you know how long it takes to go through Squarespace and try to figure this stuff out? And he just typed it up and he was changing colors, changed his mind, like white background. Nope, I want a light blue background. And it was changing at that particular time. So it takes it further for me to see that, okay, help me rewrite an email. But now he put a one-page website together in minutes. And, you know, to your point, you could have paid thousands of dollars for that website, or you could have taken weeks to do it yourself. So, and that's just, again, the corner of what it can do, because as a student, he was able to build that, showcase it quickly, and it was still kind of a clunky product that he was saying. It was nothing fancy about it. So it just made me realize that that's just the tip of the iceberg of what the opportunities are.
Well, I thank you for that. I want to not give you any time to anybody have any questions, but I don't want you to think AI is a word processor. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't leave here thinking it's a graphic artist for you. Think it's a mainframe in Dubai connected to a mainframe in Japan and to labs around the world, and can solve diabetes for our community if we think about it hard enough and long enough, and tell the community what else to do. I want you to leave here knowing that you can reimagine your reality and that the AI. Yes, brother. Well, there are two answers. One, anytime you create something, contact an attorney. If you're gonna create something.
You have to repeat the question so everybody hears the question.
He asked if he creates something with AI through a machine or through a computer, does he own it? And for most platforms, if you're on these images that you see, because I'm an AI artist, I created them on Plugger. And Plugger says you can own them, kind of. And so to me, that says I own them as long as I can fight to own them. Mm-hmm. If you're on Mid-Journey and you create an image, or it'll say, okay, that's cool. Just know that Mid-Journey has that image. It's not going away.
Correct.
And Mid-Journey will allow you to upload any image. There was a young lady when I was on the radio today. She said, I want to just put my image up. Just understand, you just put your image in the ether and you don't have to worry. I don't think there's anything that you would say that's patentable in making something through text. But that system, you're going to have to come back and patent that whole process if that's what it was. But I would consult an attorney if I was concerned with that.
I think I would always say, if you have to use other platforms to build something and do what you want, you're less likely to own it completely because you're using somebody else's software or somebody else's product. If you build it from absolute scratch, then it's yours, and that's something that you can get a patent for. But building something from scratch is sometimes just inefficient. If there are other products and things that you can incorporate and connect, like APIs or the back end data, things like that, and it can get you to your ultimate goal faster, then to me, I would go that route than trying to patent something and be the first to have something. I think it's really about solving or getting to the solution more than it is about having a patented product, in my opinion.
And the one thing about AI and half the movement around the world is making it accessible and free. So you see a lot of people talking about open source. You see a lot of people, say the word developer.
Developer.
No, y'all not saying it loud. Developer.
Developer.
So if everybody in here isn't a developer, know that once you walk outside the door, the magic just poured on you and you're now a developer. That's what AI is to you. Mm-hmm. You will become a developer, and if you research it, you can find more open source. The world is concerned, particularly, we're very spoiled here in America, but the world's concerned, will Africa have enough large language models, and will they be able to do the research? And so there are people who want to open AI up so that they can do and understand and build off other individuals' learnings. Because if you're studying a disease, you want to connect with those other individuals who could be working with proteins in a way that you hadn't thought. And the whole idea is to end diabetes for everybody, not just for one group, and do it for no cost. Any more questions? Okay. Go for it.
I think what you're asking, so you're asking it essentially, what does future proofing mean in the sense of, are you supposed to be more technical as it pertains to AI? I think when he mentioned fear before, I think he was talking about to eliminate the fear of getting into something new, which I think that a lot of times our community, we're more cautious and risk adverse. And so I think that we were, discussing kind of going head first. I think as it pertains to future proofing, it's really specific to you, because my future proofing is not going to be your future proofing, right? Like, I am planning for things that pertains to my industry, for what I do as it, adds my platform software and how I'm going to incorporate AI. But what does future proofing look for you, and how can you start to research and get ahead of the game? Because yes, AI may be coming for some jobs, but it still needs a human touch. It's not like 100% without that can work by itself yet, right? And so I wouldn't necessarily look at it as I'm going to lose my job because AI is coming, but maybe I can get ahead of it and learn how to use AI to make my job more efficient. And maybe I can add something else within that to, do something new within that same type of industry or role or whatever that is. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily be scared about losing jobs or anything like that, but it's like, okay, we know it's coming. Where in my industry is it coming? And how can I get ahead of that so I can speak to it, so I can incorporate it in whether it's my business or my day-to-day, and so that I look like, yeah, I know it's here, it's going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to help it do this, this, and this. So you're not just kind of like, oh, the AI showed up yesterday and I guess I need to pack my bags. But it's really, you know what I mean? Let's be partners in this instead of allowing it to kind of run us away and find something different. So you don't have to be an AI technician. Like, my goal is not to learn how to code and build an AI technology. I'm hiring people for that, right? So, but my goal is to understand it enough to where it can leverage what I already do.
Well, I want us to stop talking about AI like it hasn't been here. Like, it ain't new. Like, I really want, if you walk in here and somebody says it's new, I mean, I don't know, maybe your texts haven't been corrected for the last, who you think was correcting your texts? Who you think was reading your emails? What are you thinking? Like, this has been here. It's now kind of commoditized. You've got access to what, corporations started out with the cell phone. Now everybody has one. We're at that moment. I'm sorry, we're at rolling now. Can you say the word redundancy?
redundancy.
Okay. Brother in the back, with all respect, and I really appreciate your question. If it's something that's redundant, it's going to be replaced. If it's redundant, it's going to be replaced. Coders, you have to imagine when, what was it, last week? And I know Google has a product like Sora getting ready to come out. But if they're saying you're making video in 1 minute, a 1 minute video with text, a 1 minute video, everybody in this room can make a 1 minute video with text. They're saying reimagine how you make a video. Because you may not need a camera crew to make that video. It's the imagination moment for you to really bring partnership. But I think this is a good place, Stephanie, and thank you for coming. And I'm gonna let you ask your last question, brother, because I don't want you. But I want everybody, this you're just getting started. You got some of the dopest Black people in the world coming to the stage. You need to be bragging to all your friends that you are at the biggest, dopest spot where $1 billion corporations sent their employees and their partners to tell you and your friends how to make money in the future. I mean, we're coming with a solve today at Rolling Out. We're going to tell you, well, now you may not want to be, you might want to partner with Google. They have a partnership. You might want to get 4 friends and figure out how to join a team. You might want to get a certification. You've got things that I want you to think about, because if you're not going to collaborate, I'll just say this, if you're not going to collaborate, if you're not going to be curious, you're going to be irrelevant. And we're having this because I don't want us to be a community that's irrelevant. So I think this is a wonderful time. My dear sister is going to come up. Let's give my brother this last moment, because I don't want anybody ever to be Rolling Out and feel left out. He did say he was a Morehouse man like me, so go ahead, brother.
My question was relative to monetizing a product, and if a person had an idea as far as marketing a series of puzzles for people who like puzzles, what platform, I guess, would be the term in terms of AI? Well, I guess a platform would be, I guess, would you direct someone to look at? I know there's that Chat GP or GT or whatever it is for people who like to write books or whatever. But how would one find which one of those would be suitable for working a series of puzzles types of books and being able to make them, I guess like a series? Does that make sense?
It does, but I just want to caution everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If it's been made like a puzzle, if it's been made, it's been scanned somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could begin, and don't get stuck on chat.
No, I'm not
saying you.
Example.
I'm saying them. I can tell you the difference between Barb and chat. If I want something here, and so I'm not going to answer the question now because we'll get to that.
Ruminate.
I don't want people to think Chat GPT is AI. Like I don't want you to think that. That's not AI.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence is so much bigger than that.
Right.
Like, and so you're not gonna go on a chat and say, okay, you can create puzzles. There are lots of places to create puzzles. So I don't want you to miss that. But there's a big solve happening, and it's really about us embracing partnership, collaboration. You want to create some puzzles, you might want to go to the puzzle maker because he's trying to figure out how to put AI on all his puzzles. Anything that's redundant like a puzzle that you will do, chat can scan it, break it, and do it right now, and they'll give it to you free. I wouldn't want to be in that business, but I'm just letting you know there are a lot of platforms, and we'll share some. So I don't want to get in front of you. Can you close this out?
What would you like me to close this out with?
Some hope, some ingenuity. I mean, there's a powerful sister getting ready to come, so don't run out. They finally, a brother, know who's coming on stage, but there's some dynamic people that are here. So go ahead, give them a little hope.
Some hope. I mean, I think being here is a first step, right? Learning all that you can, getting your questions answered, collaborating. I think that one of my goals this year is to be more involved, to show up at the events, to network, do all the things, because there's always going to be somebody that knows a little bit more, that did a little bit more research than you. So I think this is a great step. I'm learning while I'm sitting here just as well as everybody else is. And so, yeah, I think that if you have an idea, don't be scared to just kind of start it and do the research. Like, I think there's the information and the education is out there. YouTube, like you said, there are lots of courses, there are lots of classes. I'm teaching a class on entrepreneurship that talks about the foundational steps on what it takes to start a business. So, yeah, I just think that with ideas, don't let anybody talk you out of it. Do your own research and formulate your own scientific method to determine if this is an idea that is worth really pursuing, and allowing to use a lot of these technologies, and whether it's AI or not, to get you to where you want to be.
Well, let's give Stephanie a round of applause.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of her. Cara, if you bring the runner show so I can at least have an idea of what it is, I'd appreciate it. You could just bring it to me. The runner show.
She said it's on the phone. This is my exit.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our chief of staff, Cara.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Do I leave this here?
Great job. I was wondering who was next. Right, turn me off. I was wondering who's next. He's truly one of my favorite people that I have met. When you're a business person, I can't say I've made millions of dollars with this guy. He is a giver, he's a dad, he's a dynamic entrepreneur. He's raised millions for Black AI. I'm not going to introduce him because he also has one of the smartest other dynamic guys out. But Chuck, if you and John would come on out, let's give a round of applause to Chuck Goss and John Passmore. Y'all can have it from here. Chuck, you've done 1 million panels. John, this is yours. I'm getting off stage. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Wow, that's a hot mic, right? I kind of felt a little bit, now I got to ask Munson a little bit later if he's a preacher's kid, because he had us to, repeat certain words. And that is the truest form of remembering what you just heard. So let me give some housekeeping real quick, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, John, or tell us more about you, because from what I saw in the hallway, people know who you are. So get ready. But I do want to thank Munson for not only being a thought leader and originator, but a very selfless guy for a very long time. And if you listen to the interview just a minute ago, you heard something that is very, very unique. Oftentimes we run into people who can't wait to take from you rather than going with you. And so I just want to thank Munson for being that guy for a very long time. Would you give him a hand? So John Passmore, I just heard in the hallway overhearing someone else say, so I think I know who he is already, which is a good thing when the word goes before you. Let me tell you how I met John. So my name is Chuck Fosh, and I've had dots connected all of my life by great people, and John is one of them. So I'm about to date us, man. So I had this tape. Does anybody remember, like, when you used to have a tape, an actual tape? Okay, so don't answer it if you don't want to answer it, but some of you know what I mean. I had this show, and I was trying to figure out how to go from local to national, and had called on a number of people. Finally got to this guy named John Passmore, who was running at the time, and you'll have to tell us your various titles from partner to co-founder to chairman to CEO. But I found this guy, and I thought what I wanted was for him to help me to take this show from here to there. What he ended up doing is running, I think, if not the premier, one of the premier African-American companies, media companies in the world at that time. This guy turns around and takes me and tells me that I'm doing too little, and sits and does an entire business plan. And that's why I want to say thank you, if I haven't, over the last few years or so, probably longer than that. Yeah, but this is the guy who's on stage, who can take an idea and make it spectacular. So, John, tell us a little bit about all of these titles and who you are.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, everybody, for coming in today. And you bring up an interesting point in that we met when I was in the media business, and I think everybody saw that media was being kind of disrupted by technology. So at some point, I had worked with Russell Simmons for many years. We made the transition into technology and launched our first technology business. I launched my first technology business back in 2008, which was kind of an Expedia with video called Voyage TV. And we went out and raised $10 million for that business. But coming from a media background, I was considered a non-technical founder. So at some point while we were running Voyage TV, I decided to go back to Columbia University and get an additional degree. I had a business degree, so I wanted a computer science degree. So, you go kind of part-time as an adult. So it took many years, but made the transition from media to technology. And even the professors at Columbia University would tell us that it would be decades before technology could actually write a computer program, that it could check your syntax or make sure that you didn't leave out a colon or a period, but it would be decades before computers could actually write computer code. And as we all saw about a year ago, ChatGPT kind of came out of the box writing computer code. So we knew that was a super special thing, and that's kind of my art. I kind of started in media, moved over to technology, and started a new business, Latimer.ai, because we knew that what ChatGPT and Google were doing is revolutionary. It's as big as, I would say, the mobile phone was, or the advent of the internet. It's really going to change potentially everything. And I was just when we first saw ChatGPT, I think everybody was amazed and looked at some of the capabilities. But then the other thing that we saw was, hey, it's not getting everything correct, or it's saying things that are insulting or have bias. So we saw that as well. And then we were surprised that nobody was kind of jumping in, really. We were just kind of asking Google or Meta or Amazon to fix those things. And, our point is really that, we should kind of have ownership. We shouldn't always be asking these giant companies, as great as they are, to, fix our history or fix the way that it, speaks to us or thinks of us. So this technology, in some senses has a mind of its own. So we wanted to make sure that we owned something, that we could train up a piece of artificial intelligence that we could train. And we don't have to ask anybody for anything else.
So we just heard brag. He is being very modest. Let me brag on him one more time. When he talked about Russell Simmons, here's the story, y'all. So he finally says, okay, I'm going to take you on. I'm going to help you build what you can't build yourself. Next thing I know, he invites me to a place. I go to the place. I'm in New York. I don't know what I'm doing or where I am. It's a restaurant. I walk in and there's Stan Latham and Russell Simmons sitting there. And this is the way he introduces me. He says, this is Stan, this is Russell, this is Chuck. Russell, Stan, here's your new partner. Y'all missed that. Let me show you, let me set you up one more time. I'm sitting there like this, not knowing what to do or where to go. He is sitting there saying, Stan, Russell, here's your new partner. His name is Chuck, go.
Well, you had built the business. You had built the show at that point. So.
John takes things and makes them spectacular. I just want to set that stage for you. Now I want to go back and talk about the two sides of AI, and then we'll talk landscape and funding and traversing all of that. Talk tech and then talk culture, because there's really two parallel tracks that go with what you're doing right now. There's tech and there's culture. Can you talk both of those planes?
Okay. Talking tech, so we've seen, all of the big companies, and there's really just kind of 5 really big tech companies that are building artificial intelligence as we kind of know it. And what OpenAI has done that's really impressive is that they've kind of allowed other people to use what's called an API. So you can kind of build on top of it. And that's from a technology standpoint what we've done. We've built our own database that has our own history. So, for instance, we have an exclusive relationship with the New York Amsterdam News, and we've used their data. We brought their data in, and, they're the second oldest Black newspaper in the United States. Their data goes back to 1926. And that's stories that we want to have. That's stories, you can almost think of AI as kind of a really smart person. But as smart as it is, it only has the information that you give it. And then if you have a company, let's say, where 2% of the workforce or of the engineers are Black and brown, the priorities of what information is important to those people is maybe a little bit different than what you and I would think we would want that entity or that person or that platform to know. So we went out, we licensed the New York Amsterdam News. We have a great what I'd call a content czar, Professor Molefe Asante, who created the first African-American Studies PhD program in the United States. He's at Temple University. So, we're building technology. The technology is accessible. It's not tremendously expensive. Those foundation models, and again, there's about 5 companies that are building those really, really big models. OpenAI being the most well-known, that's expensive. But if you're building a chatbot and you want to get an API from OpenAI or Gemini, we saw Google launch Gemini. Certainly they had some well-publicized issues with some of the images coming out of Gemini, but it's Google. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They'll get that right. They allow you to kind of build on top. They want people to build on top. which, is somewhat of an invitation to everybody in this room or listening to use your own creativity and, use those tools. I heard Munson talking about YouTube University. There's no need really anymore that you have to go to a university, although we are here at Morehouse. You can learn coding, you can learn how you want to use these tools online today. There's a great site called deeplearning.ai. Obviously YouTube, there's plenty of resources if you want to understand how the technology works. Now, on top of that, yes, there is the culture. Black Americans, Black people kind of drive culture in the United States. So that's kind of a funny thing to own, the culture, in the sense that it's not like real estate where you can easily buy and sell it. But we do own it, and you can see online sometimes, if somebody's appropriating that culture, you get some pushback. So what we don't want to happen in this new AI revolution is, hey, somebody created this Biggie video, but did they get permission? Do they have the rights to it? So when you can start appropriating the culture without paying the folks that kind of created it, I see that's a big problem, because especially for us, where a big part of our wealth is just really embedded in the culture.
So I'll stay right there for a second, and then I'm going to come back and ask specifically around Latimer and how it came.
Okay.
But you do know you're in the cradle of culture. You're at Morehouse.
Yeah,
HBCU.
absolutely.
Any HBCU, anybody? let him hear it, will you? Let him hear it. There it is. There you go. So I just need you to understand where you are right now.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
for that, Chuck.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
The reason I'm harping on that is because obviously between, getting it right from a technical aspect, but also getting it right from a culture perspective, and speak to why it was important that you had to find this sweet spot, this place of this amazingly transformative tool that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So speak to Latimer and where the name came from. Why'd you choose it? Because it also speaks to culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We chose the name because Louis Latimer was a genius and in many ways somewhat unrecognized. We're not always learning about him. Depending on where you go to school, you may, maybe you never even heard of him. Some people think that, yeah, he worked with Thomas Edison, and yeah, he worked with Alexander Graham Bell, and maybe he didn't get the credit. Like, we don't have video of who actually made the filament in the light bulb. And we understand who got the credit, and we all learn about, Thomas Edison in school, but Louis Latimer is right there. So, what was his contribution to that? And it's, there's significant contributions, and there's literally thousands, tens of thousands of these, creators, Black people who really built this country in a lot of different ways, up through science and technology and math. And somehow those stories aren't always told. We understand that we have phenomenal entertainers and we have phenomenal folks in sports, and we see a lot of them, but we name the company because we also want to recognize that we have, some great thinkers, and those folks should get their light as well, and they will, to the best of our ability, we'll make sure that they can. And I think that, as we think about, what's AI and what's the impact of it going to be, I look at it like, some people say, well, even ChatGPT right now might be as smart or 5 times as smart as Albert Einstein. It's read every single word that it could on the internet. Anything that it could scrape has been scraped. Words, maybe not images, maybe not all the videos yet, but you can imagine if you read every word and could recall every word on the internet, that you'd be a pretty knowledgeable person. So this is an entity or a piece of technology that has read every single word and its ability to form sentences or paragraphs or books or make scripts. You had the writer's strike in the West Coast because they're recognizing, hey, this technology, if you even just give it an idea, and we've seen it in prompts now with videos, you just give it an idea, that's really all it needs. And it can, if you said I needed a Terminator 3 movie and it knew the script from Terminator 2, it would just write the script for you, and it would take, I don't know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So as a writer, that's very disconcerting. And, businesses, studios are very kind of bottom line driven. So, hey, if I can replace those expensive writers with this piece of technology, that's pretty alluring for the businesses.
So now you bring up this, the other side. As great as some people think AI is, talk about the challenges that come with it, because you just brought up, a few, and you sort of, you tapped it and then you pulled back. Talk about the folks who are on the opportunity side and the challenge side, because at some point we'll all meet in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, it's really new technology, so it's even hard for everybody to agree on what the challenges will be. We know that it's going to disrupt jobs. We just don't know how many jobs. They kind of say that anybody that's, if your job is sitting at a computer, like, if you're a carpenter, if you're a plumber, your job is safe. If your whole job can be done sitting in front of a computer, it's pretty smart. It can probably do, maybe not now, but maybe 6 months, it could probably do your job. And the other thing that I like to point out is that the CEO of OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, is a guy, Sam Altman, and we've seen him testify in front of Congress. Sam Altman has another company called WorldCoin. They've raised $100 million for this company that probably most people have never heard of, called WorldCoin. It's very hard to raise $100 million, by the way. So without anybody really seeing completely what it is, it's called universal basic income. I think we saw during the pandemic the problems the U.S. government had in getting everybody a check on time. So Sam Altman, I guess, assuming that he sees the disruption that ChatGPT is going to drive, has another company that solves for universal basic income, which means here's your $2,000 a month. We're going to pay you in digital currency. We have a retinal scanner to identify you, which is one of the big problems the government had in identifying everybody and getting them their money. But why would you think that we need WorldCoin? So that's my thing, is like, what is he thinking? He's kind of getting ahead of the curve. We're not thinking, hey, we're going to be out of a job, but the guy that created ChatGPT is already building for that future.
So what are you telling us, John? Do you want us to be happy or scared?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to build. There's an opportunity to be creators and producers. We just, I think, have to kind of pay attention as well.
So in paying attention, when you think about the landscape, so most people speak of technology as a next and a now.
Yeah.
What I've heard this morning and what we've all heard is it's a next and a now. So talk about now and then talk about next in terms of landscape.
Now is a great time because everything is nothing has settled. Sure, we have these 5 big companies, Amazon, Metas of the world that are, have the resources to buy all the NVIDIA chips and make all the processing happen. Okay, so that's that. But we still want to be entertained. We still have culture. We still have the people that create the culture and own the culture. So we just want to figure out ways that we can continue to do that in this kind of next round that's coming and position ourselves as owners as opposed to consumers.
So since you mentioned owners, let's talk about money.
Okay.
Can I have some? Just kidding. There is a fine line, and then there's this huge chasm between I've got a great idea and I want to get it to market.
Yeah.
So the commercialization of things and really the process. Talk about from the time you had the idea of Latimer to where you are right now.
We formed the company, I think, in July of last summer, and we launched the product, the first product, Latimer.ai, the large language model, January 22nd. So that's fairly rapid from idea to, hey, you know, you can go to the internet and use it. I think doesn't have to be that rapid. I mean, you know, some ideas take longer. You know, I've been at this for a second, so we have relationships, but, you know, there's some great resources out there. And I have to give it up to Munson. He's kind of at the center of some of this and is super supportive for technology and new ideas and convening something like this where people can kind of get together. That's a very big part of it. You know, I used to work alongside a guy named Andre Harrell, who was at Uptown Records and Motown. And he used to stress that one of the most important things that you could develop is your network. Who do you know? So who can you call when you need something, whether it's a technical issue and you just want to understand how to get your head around it, or you need a check because, hey, I have a great idea.
Yeah, by the way, did anybody notice when I said, can I have some? He just laughed. Okay, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
So, yeah, you know, I would say build your network. Whether that's, again, if you're on the technical side or the marketing side or, you know, whatever it is. And there are resources, as we know. I think some statistics just came out that, you know, people of color, Black people, got a very small slice of the venture funding. I think it was under 1% last year, really very, very small. But that's not to say there aren't sources of capital. So I wouldn't get too caught up in those statistics. If you have a great idea and you kind of know how to kind of hustle a little bit, you have to be a bit of a promoter, I think, or whatever. You know, sometimes I look at somebody like Bill Gates, who's got zero charisma, but had a great idea and was able to go out and make it happen and is one of the richest people on the planet. So charisma helps, not always, you know, speaking to a very charismatic person, but, you know, it's not always necessary. And then there's great Black owned venture capital companies, Collab Capital here in Atlanta, many others. And that's just kind of a giant resource that you can look at on the internet.
I think we're going to open up to some questions from you guys, but as you think about any questions you might have for John, I'm going to ask him some rapid fire. So you only have like 2 or 3 words to answer. When you wake up in the morning, what do you think about?
What to do, what's next.
When you go to sleep at night, what do you think about?
Probably, what do I have to do tomorrow? What's next?
So when you look out at folks and they are thinking about what's now and what's next, they're thinking about Latimer, what would you say to them?
I would say use it as a tool. You know, you can do many things with large language models, whether it's, hey, you want to have a conversation or you want to ask it about history, but we just added a feature where you could upload a file or a document as well. So, hey, I'm not going to read these 20 pages. I'm going to upload it to Latimer and I'm going to ask it for a summary. And, you know, that can be done in a lot of different ways for a lot of different purposes. So these are tools to make your life better and easier. It saves your chat history. So if you want to go back to something you were thinking about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, it's right there. And, you know, as you start to interface with Latimer or any large language model, you'll find yourself, you know, it's somewhat of an extension of your own thinking, your own brain, really, because it is conversational. It's a little bit different than search, where Google search, you're looking for maybe a specific website or a specific resource. With large language models, it's almost like talking to a really smart friend, and you can save those conversations, and you can kind of come back to them and, add the next layer to them.
From my smart friends, if there are any questions. Yes, sir.
Our roadmap is to continue to release a lot of tools. So an API allows other companies to, for a consumer, you go to latimer.ai, you type that in, and you can enter in your question or your query. With an API, a company, an insurance company, a bank that wants to use it for whatever reason they can connect electronically. So we believe, you have OpenAI, or ChatGPT, that launched about a year and some months ago, currently has a revenue run rate of about $1.8 billion a year. So they've gone from zero to $1.8 billion in a very short period of time. And a lot of that's driven by the fact that companies can very easily, frictionless, you would say, in the business, can connect to them. So we have a series of kind of business tools, and then a series of kind of consumer tools to make it easier or more rewarding for consumers to interact with us. How much do I think it would cost? We're seeing the costs kind of come down. Everybody sees, NVIDIA made these wonderful chips that allow computers to think in new ways or faster ways. Those chips are extremely expensive. There are new technologies that are coming out that allow, your phone or a regular computer to have some of that kind of processing power. Costs are coming down. It was billions of dollars to create a foundation model. It's going to be a lot less in the future. As we grow our data, that is something that we always think about. Can we take our database and just make it our foundation model at some point?
Yes, sir. That's you? Yeah. Hey.
Thank you. So I'll repeat that. So you mentioned biases earlier, and I wanted to find out what are some of the trends. I'm working with a company where we are working to kind of do an overlay to help people identify, that's incorrect, that's a bias. Like you said, it's reading all of this information off of the internet, but again, we know there's all the isms that kick in. So I'd love your thoughts on trends.
Okay, so the question is about bias and how, when you say, oh, ChatGPT read the whole internet, as we all know, there are corners of the internet like Reddit comments or YouTube comments or Twitter, where you see a lot of language and you see a lot of attitudes that you probably wouldn't want repeated, but those models don't know really from the start, they don't know good from bad, so that they did repeat a lot of that language, which is in many cases biased in a negative way. We announced, Latimer announced, I think in December, that we're working with Morgan State University in developing some tools to also mitigate bias. So the bigger companies have put up guardrails. They haven't gone in, let's say, and deleted that troublesome kind of content that's in the database. It's just in there, but they put up guardrails. And I think the intelligence of these networks or third-party software that you can kind of add is an area of opportunity, because we want our kids to be able to use these safely. If there's a tool or a piece of software that I can install that maybe looks at those responses first and makes sure that there's nothing objectionable, I think that's great.
And I think I want to add just 2 cents to say, since there was a shout out for Morgan State, I can't wait, and I know this is already in process, because some of the HBCUs that we've spoken to about Latimer, everybody's excited about it. So pretty soon, Munson, there will be more shout outs than Morgan State.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next HBCUs who will adopt Latimer.
Can we, just on the HBCU front, one of the things that we've done, if you use Latimer a lot, you kind of bump into a paywall where it says, hey, for $9.99 a month, you can subscribe to Latimer. But for HBCU students, when we work with their parent, with the organization itself, with HBCU, we make it free for HBCU students.
Hello. Yeah, I think that's big. I think it's huge because, this goes back to one of the questions I asked about tech and culture. So what if there was an opportunity for HBCUs to help form, to help drive, to help champion, right? Not only from a perspective of being part of the culture, but all of those great minds, the next minds, would be a part of this revolution, evolution, or whatever you want to call it. And so I just want to thank you for bringing HBCUs along in this entire process at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's an opportunity. It's there's great talent. So it's not even just we just think that that's a great opportunity for us to interact with these young folks and encourage them to create. I think we can bring a little bit of knowledge. We've reached out to companies like Google or X and Amazon and Adobe. We've been reaching out to say, hey, let's do these workshops. Let's take them on tour because there's so much talent.
Yeah. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, can you?
There you go.
Now can be heard. Hey, John, this is Lachey from Black AI Think Tank and Black Metaverse. And my thing is that, first of all, I just want to thank you for your constantly being out here sharing your knowledge about AI and how it can benefit our community. You seem to give and give and give. It's not really a question for us to kind of learn more, but a question for how can we actually help you continue to grow Lattimore as you give and give and give. What can we do to help support you continue your mission?
Wow, I really appreciate that. Just use it. It's, Latimer is a tool and we appreciate your feedback. People get in touch with us. They tell us great stories or they tell us, things that might help us improve. Latimer, we've gotten tremendous outreach actually from all over the globe, from England, from Africa, of people that have content. We've writers that have said, hey, I have these books, I own the rights, this should be in your database, and they're absolutely right. So any feedback is super helpful.
That was actually the close right there, so thank you. Yeah, we are at time. Would you give it up for founder, originator, innovator, leader, Jonathan Smart?
Thank you, Chuck.
Always.
John, call me Mr. C. It's a huge misunderstanding when we hear somebody say, I raised $10 million and we don't clap. So I think the thing, and John really didn't talk about it, is he brought his product in 6 months to market. And he literally has raised a couple $1 million in the 6 months. So he'll be going to his next raise. And so when you get a chance, since he'll be here, you might want to ask how he began to raise the money. Because raising money is part of all of what this is about. Like at the end of the day, if you sit back and you say, I went to an AI conference, and you literally weren't thinking about how you, in your mind as a developer, walked out of here thinking about how you were going to raise another $1 million to $2 million, then you kind of missed why we really invited you. This is really a millionaire's technology party. But you have to see yourself like that when you walk out this door. You saw John, he had 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. And he was sharing his experience. But I believe, and want you to believe, when you leave here, that that's not even a lot of money. How many of you heard of NVIDIA? So look up NVIDIA. They did $238 million. 1 quarter. So everybody in here could be at least $1 million company. Like, let's set some goals, claim some dreams while you're here. Like, know that this is your moment to get in on the gold rush. And that's what AI is. So I want to thank you for being here. We've got a phenomenal young lady coming up. She's a giver. She's a technologist. How many of you are in sales that are here? Ever sold something? Okay. So Stephanie, truly, corner her, get in her ear. She has sold for some of the biggest billion-dollar companies. She's not she didn't do the $1 million companies. She did the billion-dollar companies. She is a true, what I would call consummate, passionate technologist. All of us here have to see and think of ourselves as technologists. If there are labels that you got today, developers one, millionaires another, and clearly a technologist. But if you would help me in bringing someone who wants to give some solutions, some partnerships, some opportunities to all of us, help me to welcome the one, the only, the true extraordinary guru, sister with superpowers, Stephanie Carr. Come on, Steph.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everybody? Good. They're going to play a video first, and then I will go into my presentation right after that.